Hey everyone. Oh, let me clean up this a little bit. Here we go. Had a little last minute panic because we sent some people the wrong link, but we should be good now. Welcome to the March show. We have a ton of registrations, over 1,800. So it's going to be very interesting to see how many people will show up to the stream today. We have lots of updates. It's been an extremely busy week for us here at n8n, as you may know if you followed us on social media and if you looked at your email. We have sneak peeks of product features that are coming up, and we have very interesting guests showing you how to use n8n with front ends. We have CEOs, Budibase's CEO, Michael Shanks, showing us how to use Budibase, and we have Zubair from AI Workshop going to do a live build with Lovable. So it's going to be an interesting day today, and let's see how things go. Let me show you a couple of things. As you may have noticed, we have some new wallpaper. Right, everything on our website changed. We have a new design. We'll talk about it a bit later, but don't worry, it's just like some visuals. Nothing about the app is changing. Nothing about the community is changing. So we should be all good there. And oh, hang on, I have another. Sorry guys, I need to fix one thing. I sent the wrong link to people on Luma. Sorry about that. Here we go. Okay. This is one of these days where things just don't really work out, I suppose. Okay, well, but with that said, let's dive into today's program and see what we are going to be talking about. So, as I mentioned, we have 3 guest speakers. We're going to be talking about upcoming stuff. I'm going to do 2 live demos, which is going to be exciting. I've never done that before. We're talking about Budibase and Lovable, and between every segment, there's going to be lots of opportunity for you to ask questions. So if you have a question, let's leave it in the chat, and my colleague Louis will collect them all and show the right ones at the right time for us so we can answer them. Right, so let's dive into the news, and there was a lot of news this week. First off, we closed our Series B investment round, and it was a big one. This one is bringing our total investment in n8n up to 55 million, and this round was led by Highland Europe with participation from HV Capital, and our previous investors, Sequoia, Felices, and Harpoon, participated as well. And this is very exciting for us because it unlocks a lot of things. Like, first of all, it's going to help us accelerate our mission, and it's giving our mission is to give technical people the power of a 10x developer, and this is really going to help us attract a lot of new people to the team. It's going to help us develop in the areas where we want to. We are expanding into the US as well, and I'll say a little bit more about that later. This is going to enable us to invest a lot more in education and our community as well. And that includes the regular community, but also experts and partners. And we can now really start building an ecosystem around n8n. And this is something that is already happening. Like, if you look in the community, if you look on Reddit, anywhere, you see lots of people are starting businesses and they're starting platforms using n8n, which is really amazing. So yeah, for us, this is gonna allow a lot of growth, and it's going to be a very exciting year. It's going to mean the team grows a lot. We are with 80 people now, and we're going to be growing to over 100, probably 120, 140 if we're lucky. So yeah, it's a great year. The next big news that I wanted to share is our redesign. And before I dive into that, we have a new promo that we started, and I'll play that now. It takes 3 minutes, and then my colleague Luis is going to talk a bit about our redesign and our reasons for doing it.
So there's all these apps across your business. They're mostly isolated. You may have a few syncs set up. Perhaps you got a few scripts running. You may even have a few zaps set up. You're also an AI-enabled organization, right? I mean, you're using ChatGPT. The thing is, our users do things like spend 1 day of engineering effort to deploy a workflow that ends up saving over 400 person hours a month, every month. And they deployed that workflow over 2 years ago. If your competitor can save over 4,800 hours a year from investing 1 day wisely, if your competitor can move 2, 3, 5, 10 times faster than you, you're going to have to adapt. We're an AI workflow automation platform built for technical teams that lets you pick the right tool for each step in your complex processes. There's no-code steps for common functions like interacting with apps, receiving events, or routing logic in your workflow. Then there's code steps for when that makes sense for you. Run JavaScript or Python on any data. Then we have a ton of AI and agentic steps. There are ready-to-use ones for common use cases and powerful AI agents. And there's a whole pocket of YouTube dedicated to that if you want to see what those are capable of. And of course, we have a ton of human-in-the-loop capabilities. That's AI speak for pausing a workflow and having a human complete a step. In short, we have the right tool for each step in your complex processes, giving you the flexibility of code with the speed of a visual builder. As one of the world's 150 most popular GitHub projects of all time, and with our thriving global community, you're never building alone. Leverage over 1,000 workflow templates and connect with builders, instructors, and partners to accelerate your adoption. Plus, deploy it however you want. n8n is open and self-hostable. Run it on your infrastructure with your security policies. Scale horizontally with workers, and integrate with your CI/CD pipeline. Or enjoy managed hosting on our cloud. Enterprise teams rely on n8n for mission-critical workflows while adhering to seriously strict security standards. We've become the trusted solution for government agencies, security teams, and enterprises worldwide, saving tens of thousands of engineering hours and, honestly, I don't know how many human hours indirectly. We're the AI workflow automation platform for technical teams. Build visually, deploy confidently.
Well, that was pretty cool. I feel like we have a real commercial now, Luis. That's something.
We
huh?
have, yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. New visual refresh into n8n.
All right, so we've done a ton of work on the website over the last year, I would say, to prepare for this week. Can you tell us a little bit about like what we changed and what were our reasons for doing it?
Yeah, for sure. But maybe before even that, I will try to clear up some questions that I'm seeing on the chat. Our prices are not going up. We're looking cooler and more visually appealing, but we're keeping our prices, so you can count on that. And also, I have seen a lot of questions around our recent funding, if n8n is getting closed, if we're going to remove our community version. That's also not going anywhere soon or ever, as a matter of fact. We keep having our community version available for everyone, and we're not raising prices. So I wanted to first clear up those couple of questions that I have been seeing on the chat. And yeah, we're super excited about this new website. And by the way, I'm Luis, lead the marketing department at n8n. I did introduce myself. Yeah, I think this new website is not yet a full brand redesign. We are still looking to shape our personality, find our own voice. We consider this more like a visual refresh into n8n, but a much more it's coming. But besides the new website and that we look nicer and so on, I think something that I wanted to share is that now the marketing team has grown at n8n, and with this new website, new visual refresh, and almost a new branding that will come at some point, one thing that we want to focus is to create some materials that are also visually appealing with the right information and that are, more importantly, valuable for the people in the community and the ecosystem of n8n. What I mean by that is that we know in this room there's a lot of people that offer services around n8n. They're consultants, freelancers, they have agencies. And from the marketing team, we will start supporting a lot more on that with materials, presentations, slides. So you also have this brand extension of n8n when you are working with your clients and so on. I think probably between 2 or 3 months you can expect to have some news from us on that front. And also looking,
we're going to see the first n8n millionaire this year. That would be quite a milestone, right?
I bet that we might have someone very, very close to the millionaire status. But
That
yeah,
would be a
if not,
milestone to
pretty soon.
celebrate. So.
Yeah,
Nice.
if not pretty soon. Yeah. I'm also looking ahead in the future. The website looks better right now, but we also acknowledge that there are some suboptimal parts that we're desperately looking to fix. So, for example, we want all of our community members and expert partners to have a single profile where they can pull all of their templates, their community posts, their partner information. So that's something that we're working on. It will take more time, probably a little bit even ahead of 2025. But yeah, this is literally the first step into taking better care of our website and our branding, and share those materials with the community as well.
Another question or concern that I saw is people asking if this was going to be a redesign of the app itself as well, of n8n. That's not the case.
Not at the moment. Yeah, the product team is also always looking to improve the UX of our product. But what you are currently seeing on the website is not going to be a exact copy of our product, at least for now. So yeah, we are getting our personality out there with the website, but the product is staying the same for the time being.
Brilliant. All right, Luis, thanks for answering this. If anyone has any feedback, any thoughts on the site redesign, you can go to community.n8n.io. There's a pinned discussion topic there where you can leave all your thoughts and ideas and let us know what you think we should be doing. Great. Luis is going to be the one handling the rest of the production of the stream. This is the one time a month where I am his boss instead of the other way around, which is awesome. So, Luis, thanks so much. And
Thank you, Bart.
See you again. Cheers,
Move it to the backend. Bye.
Great. Okay. Some other quick community updates then. We have a sister community on Reddit that reached 30,000 members just in February, just last week, actually. By the time I say this, I think they're at 32,000 already. Their growth is insane. It is a really nice place to hang out and share stories and workflows that you build with people. We're in touch with their admin, and I'm hoping to get him into one of their future live streams as well. So if you are from Reddit, if you're watching this, you might be seeing Fitz here in the near future as well. Very exciting to see all these international communities pop up for us. And when we talk about ecosystem, this is definitely something that we think makes n8n stronger. So thanks so much for building those, everyone. Then I wanted to talk a little bit about some upcoming features. And I know we mentioned some of these before in last live stream, but they are actually available now. At least one of them is already in the latest version, and 2 of them are in next. So this is the 3 things I want to talk about are schema preview, folders, finally, and form node updates. And yeah, I wanted to just dive in and share a little bit of what that looks like. So let me just... No, I don't need the chat here. So first off, whenever you are building workflows and you're adding nodes, and you could add more and more, you need to run all the previous nodes before you can actually pull in their data from the schema. Well, we don't need that anymore now. So what we have built is the preview. So let me just add a Gmail node, for example, and I will get a message. And I'm not executing anything. You can see here that it's waiting to be run, right? Now, if I add another node, you have all these little ghosted previews of common outputs for this node, and you can just drag them into the next node however you need. Obviously, they don't have data, so they're still grayed out. But if you run the entire workflow now, this will work as you expected it. There's not a lot more to show about this, but it's really intuitive. It's really how you expect n8n to work, to be honest. So I'm really excited that this is now part of the app. This is already in latest, so if you update your instance, you can access it right away and use it. The other one, which is even bigger, I would say, is folders. And you only waited for 4 years to get it, right? So it's finally here. Super quick. I'm not going to explain how folders work. I mean, you know that, right? But I just want to show you some elements of n8n. First of all, you can only see folders when you're in a project. So either in the personal project, which everyone has, including Community Edition, or in other projects if you are on cloud or enterprise. So in my case, let's go to personal. And I created 2 folders here to group some of my workflows. Let's say I go into Ambassador Program. You will see I have a couple of workflows here. I made a subfolder so you can nest them as deeply as you need. Like this is like an old version I don't need anymore. And now here at the top, I have these breadcrumbs where I can easily walk back a level and navigate around. Moving a workflow, you need to click on the dot menu here, and you can select where you want to move it. And that is pretty much it. Well, you can move folders and like navigate from here as well. So super exciting. This is in the next release right now. So if you are on that branch, you can already update your instance and get it, including self-hosted, Jonathan. And if you are on latest, I expect this to be released next week, unless something weird happens and we need to like fix some stuff first. But yeah, they're here. They're like I think the number one most requested feature that everyone wanted to have in n8n. So super cool to have that here finally. And then the other, let me bring back the slides. Oops. The other feature that I don't have a demo for, but I wanted to mention, is we have a bunch of form node updates ready in the next branch now as well. So we have the HTML and CSS customizations that we promised last time. We have hidden field supports. We have previews of forms. And you also have more control over response. So you can include HTML and other types of output there as well. So yeah, these are just like a couple of updates, and there's more in the pipeline, obviously. But yeah, I think these are some very exciting ones. Then we have some good news. We have some bad news. We decided to delay evaluations. After reviewing, we identified a better way of doing it. We got some feedback that people didn't really like the UX for this system. For those of you who are new to evaluations, this is a way of, it's like unit testing for workflows, and like especially interesting for AI-based workflows. Allows you to test and see like output performance in terms of like you can measure sentiment, like, and you can see how sentiment changes over time. You can measure how many tokens your workflow uses, etc. So this is going to be essential for many workflow builders, but we also realized it needs to be very intuitive and easy and joyful to use, and right now it wasn't really. So we expect this feature to be delayed for a couple of weeks, and we'll start doing incremental rollouts, hopefully starting in April, starting small and then adding as we go along. Next up, as usual, a couple of upcoming events. In April, we have a Los Angeles live stream. We have a hangout in Amsterdam where you will meet me and Max and some other team members from the Netherlands as well. And then at the end of the month, we are meeting our community in Barcelona. And I think that Luis might actually be able to head over there again. And then looking out a little bit longer, in May, we are sponsoring No Code Week. So you'll find me there as well. We are doing a little hackathon there and some workshops. So that's going to be a really fun time. And then looking even further than that, more meetups, more hackathons that we're preparing. So there's a lot of events coming up right now. And part of our team will be in San Francisco around that time as well. Then I already mentioned the investment round unlocks a lot of hiring. So we're looking for a lot of people. I highlighted just 3 of them, but I think right now we have 11 roles open in total. We're specifically looking for product people, people from the sales department. As I mentioned, we're starting a team in the United States, in New York, to be precise. So we're looking for people there as well. And as always, if you're interested, have a look at n8n.io/careers for a full list of open job positions for us. Yeah, and I think that is it for me. Let me check with Luis if there's any questions I need to answer first. Maybe not. No, if I don't see anything, that should be good. Right, this brings us to our next speaker, Jake Ranallo, who is product designer in the Nodes team. And Jake has a couple of sneak peeks for you guys. And let me bring him on screen. Hey, Jake.
Hey, how you doing?
Good. How are you?
Very well, very well.
Let me clear up this screen a little bit and share your screen. There we go.
Nice.
Jake, maybe you can introduce yourself a bit and tell us a bit about the types of projects that you work on, and then take us through the presentation that you prepared.
Of course. So as you mentioned, I'm product designer for the Nodes and Integrations team. So I work on the visual side and the user experience side of everything that nodes touch. So your details, views, the logs, the nodes themselves, everything to do with that. So yeah, pretty broad spectrum of stuff that we work on and very core to the functionality of the app. So yeah.
Thanks. And how long have you been with n8n, Jake?
Not very long. Coming up on 3 months now.
3 months and already on the live stream.
So, yeah.
Not nervous at all, I bet. Huh?
No, there's been a lot going on.
Brilliant. Okay, well, let's do it, Jake. Let's see what you have to share with us.
Cool. So yeah, I'll be taking you through a couple of things today. Just a short disclaimer before I dive in. I'll be showing design prototypes. So they're by no means complete features and they're just starting development at the moment. So if there's any data that seems off to you or some functionality that seems not quite right, then that's why. They're just sneak peeks and that's basically it. So with that out of the way, I'll just jump in and show you the first thing that we're working on. So this should be familiar to you, especially if you work a lot with AI agents and working with chatbots. So this is what we call the logs view. You have your chat window on the left-hand side and the logs or outputs and inputs of all the nodes that are touched by the AI agent, which are usually tools relating to that agent. So this is a great way of contextually sending a message and seeing what happens when you send that message and being able to track what goes on there. But we want to make this even more powerful. So I'm going to jump across to a demo. The one thing you'll see that's different here is we have a persistent logs and chat bar down the bottom now. This is much more easy to access, and it's also quite useful now because of what I'll show you next. When I click to expand this, you can see we still have the chat window on the left, but in the logs view itself, we have much more detail here. So what you can see is not only things that are relating to your AI agent and the AI execution, but also the rest of your workflow. So this view now supports the full workflow, the full execution, and any errors that happen along the way will be logged there. That includes nodes that are within a sub workflow. So you can expand the sub workflow to see what went on inside there and debug what's going on there. You can see things like loops and what happened inside them. Anything that goes on in your workflow, you can now view in this feed and debug that way. You can also see on the right that this is much closer to what we have in our full screen node details. This has now been brought much more in line with that view, so you can have a more predictable experience when you're jumping between your nodes here and looking at their outputs. What you'll also notice when I hover over some of these is the execution time and also the amount of tokens used for each part of the workflow. So again, very important if you're tracking an AI execution. You can also, from this view, hover over and open up the full node details view, so you can edit the node from there, and you can also run the execution from this node. So this is a great way to just dive into the execution and see what was going on and trigger it from different points without having to necessarily jump to different parts of your actual workflow. And this area is quite customizable now. So I'm just showing the output here, but I can also use this toggle to activate the input. So now I'm seeing quite a lot of information. I'm seeing the chat view, I'm seeing how the execution went, the input and output of the selected node. And by jumping between different nodes, I can see what input and output those nodes had. So quite a quick way of just jumping between contexts there. But this is quite a lot of information on such a small screen. So just let me close the chat there. And now I can get much more information about the input and output because I've collapsed it, and those two can expand. One other feature we have, and we're looking at implementing for this view, is the ability to pop out the panel and resize it. So maybe you have a second monitor and you want to use that as your debugging monitor and have your workflow in full on this screen. You can click this toggle here, pop it out, and make this view full screen for your other monitor for some in-depth debugging. And one last feature I'll go into for this enhanced view is I'll just open up my AI agent here. And now you can see there's another section beneath the input called tools. This will list all the tools that the agent has access to, also the description of those agents and the parameters that it has access to. So the from AI parameters that have been defined. So you get a good outlook on what tools the agent has access to and the types of things that they'll be able to edit and work with. So that's the enhanced log view. I'm going to collapse that now. The other thing that I want to look at today is the node details view, which is this full screen input parameters output view that you usually get. So you'll be familiar with this. This isn't the most flattering low-res screen grab of the node details view, but it is essentially what we have today. So we're working on some small enhancements to this, and I'll show you right now with the swipe of a mouse. This is what we're looking at now, which is a direction we're taking it in order to make it more digestible, both for new users and for power users. So we're doing a lot to make the space better used. So lowering things like line heights and the size of fonts and just spacing between things, but also reorganizing things a little bit so they make a little more logical sense from top to bottom, especially for a new user who's seeing this maybe for the first time and they want to understand what's going on. Having a header at the top with your not only the name of the node, but also the type of the node. So if you've renamed it, you can still see what the node actually is. Just a close button as you would expect on this type of view. And just alignment and small tweaks to just freshen this up a bit and make it less in your face and less distracting with heavy UI elements that are shown in the previous version. So that's the expanded log view and node details view. Both of these are in early stages of development, as I mentioned, but we are going to be doing a lot of testing before we put these live. So keep an eye on your inboxes for some invitations to do some private testing.
Brilliant, thanks, Jake.
Thank
Let's see if there are some questions from the chat. I did see a lot of like "I love it" comments fly by, so this is definitely stuff that people are excited
Good to hear.
about.
That's the response we want.
Yeah, the logging is especially cool. I think like giving so much more insight into what's happening, especially when you use agentic workflows, right?
For sure, very powerful.
Yeah. Super cool. I don't think there's specific questions here. Like some people are asking, like, will this be available on what plan? But like everything you've shown here will be available on all plans as well, I believe, right?
Yes.
Maybe that's a bit early to talk about.
As I understand it, yes.
Okay.
These will be. They're enhancements to existing features. So.
Yep. Okay, great. We don't have any questions. Oh, Ridwan just asks, how can we put our interest in for testing? So if people are not in your testing pool, how can they get on the list?
That's a good question. I think there's a sign up on the actual canvas, I believe. I'm not sure what the email is exactly, but yeah.
Okay. On the canvas in the app, you mean, or?
Yes, I believe so.
I might not see it because I'm looking on our internal instance here.
But
you know what? Maybe you can take a look at that and then drop it in the chat when you're done, and we can still share it here with.
Yeah, I'll get an email or a link that you can use to reach out.
Perfect. Thank you. All right, Jake. Thanks. I hope to see you again in a couple of months, man. Thanks.
Thanks very much.
Cheers.
Bye.
Okay, let me clean up a little bit. Right, so that brings us to our next speaker, and that is Michael Shanks. And Michael is the CEO and co-founder of Budibase. And if you don't know yet, Budibase is also Budibase is an open source low-code platform that's helping teams build internal tools faster. And if you've been in the no-code space, you've probably heard about them and even tried them as well. We're really excited to have Mike here today and see what he can teach us about Budibase. Welcome, Mike.
Hey, Bart. Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here. Pleasure to have you all listen to me today. Yeah, and yeah, thanks for the intro. I am indeed the co-founder and CEO of Budibase. And I guess just for a little intro on the product itself, in case you don't know it already, Budibase is a platform a low-code platform, open source, for building mostly internal web applications. Okay, and typically our users would be much like the community here at n8n would be technical users. But if you're someone who is not a developer, you might know a little bit of code, you might be familiar with databases and APIs, but if you don't like managing an entire code base on your own and deploying it and maintaining it, then Budibase is the platform for you. So yeah, that's it. Just a bit of background on what we do.
I think you're talking to the perfect audience today, Mike.
Indeed.
Right. Okay, what do you want to show us?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So, what I'm going to do, I've got a little app built here already. I'm going to run you through the app itself, and then just take you a step backwards and show you how it's built. And of course, there's a little bit of n8n in there as well. Yeah. So, I shall share my screen.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Here we go.
So the app I'm going to demo to you right now, just a very simple cybersecurity risk register app. Okay, and the idea here is that employees in your organization, you want them to be able to submit any cybersecurity risks that they may come across in their daily life. Okay, and then the process from there would be that the cybersecurity team would review these risks, add them to a project, and then at some point later resolve them. Okay, so I'll not spend too long running through the app. I'll do this as quickly as possible so we can get into the fun stuff. But I'm just going to very quickly create a risk here through this interface. So we're going to say there's a USB stick lying around the office. I found it and I plugged it in. Don't do that. I've had a spreadsheet on it with some personal details. So we're going to log that, click save, and this appears in the My Risk. So this view you're seeing here is just showing me the risks that I, the user, have submitted. Okay. Of course, teaching your employees and training them on how to use a risk register platform will introduce a lot of friction into that process. So what we really want to do is allow them to submit a risk through chat interface, okay, using, of course, AI. And that, of course, is where I'm bringing n8n into this. And so, as you can, I think I'm still sharing my Budibase screen, am I?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Let me just, the wrong one. Okay. There we go. Okay. Okay, so this is going back to n8n. Okay, so I have again quite a simple workflow created here in n8n. And once again, I'm just going to paste a bit of text into the chat. And what this is going to do is read my message. So my message saying, every morning at 11, everyone goes for a coffee break and everyone leaves their laptops open and unlocked for at least 10 minutes. Okay, so I'm going to send that message in the chat, and hopefully that will run through and run through that workflow successfully. Okay, and it looks like it has done so. So really the only thing you need to know here in terms of integrating with Budibase itself is that I have added a tool here that I've named Create Risk. And at this point, all it is a web request. So I'm hitting the Budibase API, and I've obviously parsed that message, and I'm sending up a JSON object to the Budibase API. There are lots of different places in Budibase that we can integrate with, and I will show you that in a minute. But if I go back into my app and share this tab, so I'll just refresh this this page. So now I've got my risk, my unattended laptops has now appeared here, and I've got my two risks now logged. So thinking about this from the cybersecurity team's perspective now, they would want to go in and review these risks. So they have their risk review section. And what they want to do is add these to a project. So I'm going to select my 2 issues, add to a project, and I should have a monthly training project in here. Add those risks, and you'll see there that the project column on the left has updated, and the status as well, and they are now added to that project. And then finally, sometime in the future, we will go into our projects, we will do our monthly training, and we will mark this project as completed, updates the status, and should have now removed our risks from the register. And it has. Okay. So I shall go now into Budibase and show you how this is put together. All right, so this is what we call the Budibase builder, and this is where you as a developer of applications would build your application. Okay, so you'll see first of all the 4 menu items along the top, so data, design, automation, and settings. Typically, we like people to start with defining their data. So defining the schema of their data and the different security rules around their data. So Budibase does come pre-packaged with its own internal database. So you'll see there where it says Budibase DB. And from here, we can manage the data entirely. We can add new columns, add new tables, of course. And we have got full sort of management capability over the data. You're not restricted to the Budibase internal DB. If I add a data source here, we can add SQL databases, a bunch of other connections there as well. And of course, REST APIs are very popular. But it's important to know that the experience you see right here with the tables down the left and all this management here is exactly the same experience that you would have if you were connecting to SQL. So as soon as you connect your SQL database, you'll see all your tables and you'll have the same experience that you see today. What we want you to do in this data section is, again, it's about securing your data. So I've got my risks table selected. You'll just see along the top here, we have got a couple of tabs. So in this case, I'm going to click on the My Risk tab. So this is what we call a view. And in a view, what we're saying is for the role, so the security role that has access to this view, we're able to define what rows they can see. So in this case, the filter is set to where it was created by the current user. And you're allowed to select what columns they can see and edit as well. So views are really all about securing the right data to the right roles in your app. And of course, I've got a couple of rules here. You can add as many as you like. You can define whatever rules you need in here. And one important thing to know about in terms of integrating this with any platform, especially n8n, is that as soon as you connect your SQL database or any queries you add into this data section, you get a full API over the top of this. So, for example, this risks table, it already has get, put, post, delete endpoints and search as well that you can obviously just query directly from outside of the platform. So I have been talking a lot, so I'll just stop there in case anyone has any questions so far. Haven't been paying too much attention.
It is super awesome, so that's good to hear.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah. That'll do.
So you showed an n8n workflow calling Budibase API, but you can also do it the other way around, I suppose, right? If you update your data in Budibase, you can send stuff into n8n.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. So I'll show you how to do that right now, actually. So one of the things that we can do from this data section as well is a thing called row actions. Okay, and row actions is basically essentially triggering back-end logic on a particular row. So in this case, I have actually got a cancel action created, And if I just click down row actions here and click on the cancel action, this brings me to our automation section at the top. Okay. So inside Budibase, we have our own RPA platform. It's by no means as broad or as deep as n8n, but it is essentially the same sort of idea as n8n. And I haven't got an n8n connection set up from in here, but it's really as simple as adding an n8n step, and you can configure the webhook URL and all the details you need to trigger a workflow from in here. But typically, what this automation section is used for is a lot of more simpler actions, like sort of updating the status of a row, or you can you can trigger it when a row has been updated or deleted. We've got different trigger types in here as well. Or of course, it can have its own webhooks as well. And in fact, it is a webhook there that I am using for the n8n input in that chat flow that I showed there. So I am declaring this automation as a webhook, and then n8n is doing most of the work of parsing and working out the risk details, and I'm just creating a row in here. So probably the biggest and the main part of Budibase really is this design section. So of course, the design section is where you build Budibase front ends. Okay, so this is where your user will interact with Budibase. So you'll see in the left-hand side here, in the top left, we have a list of what we call screens. And a screen is simply a URL or a page maybe that you navigate through your app with. So you've got everything you would expect here from a low-code platform. Again, it gets very deep, so I'll not go too far into it, but this is, of course, a drag-drop interface. We can define the styles. We can define, of course, what happens on these button clicks. Again, everything that you might expect would go in here. Mm-hmm. You can also configure different screen sizes. So we can configure how this looks on mobile. And I don't believe this is released yet, but very soon coming up, you'll be able to basically install your app as a progressive web application. So you have a little app icon on your phone as well.
Brilliant.
So,
should we look at some questions, or did you have another bit you wanted to tell us?
No, happy to take questions.
Yeah, there's a question from Matt Williams here, and he says, I seem to remember hearing, let me just bring this on screen for now. Mm-hmm. There were being limitations added to self-hosted version. Is that still the case? Or like maybe you can tell us a little bit, if people want to get started with Budibase, what their options are.
Yeah, that's right. So on the self-hosted limitations are at the moment that there is a 20 user end user limit. So you can only have 20 users at most using an app. Mm-hmm. So yeah, that's basically our main limitation there. Of course, we have additional features on our paid tier as well. But we do offer, for anyone interested in enterprise pricing, we do offer creator pricing there. So you can pay per developer essentially and have unlimited end users.
That makes sense. So, and installing Budibase, what is involved with that? Is it like a Docker image, or how do you set it up?
It is a Docker image. We of course deploy to lots and lots of different places. You can find on our docs. But yeah, it's typically people would use a Docker deployment, and it is very simple. We have a CLI as well that if you're not totally familiar with Docker, you can use our CLI to install Budibase. So it's very easy actually.
Yeah, that's going to be very recognizable for our users as well. So that it should be really easy for them to try it out. Okay, question from LinkedIn. Someone says, how does Budibase handle user authentication?
Yes. Okay. So, well, first of all, we support OIDC, so SSO out of the box, and I think that's on open source on our free tier. And in terms of how you manage users, then we've got this little user pop out here. where we can define per user, we can say what role they have against each app. So I sort of showed you some of the roles there. I only had app admin, app user set up. So I can set this user to be app admin on this app. Additionally, we can create user groups. So you'll see at the top here, I have the finance user group. So I can add a couple of users to the finance group and give them all admin or app user access there. And then if you want to go a step further again, we can sync that group to Active Directory. So there's little to no user management at all.
Yep. And these are the 20 users that are included with the free community version, I presume, right?
Yes, indeed.
Right.
Yep.
Okay. Okay, let's see. Luis, do we have more questions? Does the SQL Server have to be publicly available, or is there a gateway available like Microsoft offers?
So if you're installing self-hosted, it's just it's up to you to manage the connection between SQL and your self-hosted deployment. If you're using our cloud platform, then I think you have to allow our cloud IP against your through your firewall, basically.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Straightforward enough, right? Yeah. Okay. Luis, maybe we can do 2 more questions and then we need to move on to our next topic. No more questions. I get a message. Brilliant. Okay. Well, remind us again where people can find Budibase, Mike, and how they should get started.
Yep, budibase.com. Just sign up, download and self-host, or use our cloud platform.
Fantastic. Oh, I'm definitely going to try it this weekend and see what it can do for me and how I can hook it up to n8n. That's going to be great.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Bart.
Thanks so much, Mike. Take care. Bye. All right. That brings us to our last talk today, and we're going to run a little over time because at the beginning I messed up a little bit, so I don't want to rush our next speaker, Zubair, in his presentation. So yeah, our next speaker is Zubair Trabzada. I hope I don't butcher your name, Zubair, man. And you may know Zubair from his YouTube channel AI Workshop and his school community with the same name. And he educates over 900 AI enthusiasts there. And Zubair is going to show us how you can use Lovable with n8n to vibe code a cool front end. And let me just bring him onto the screen right now. Here we go. Hey man, nice to see you again.
How's it going, Bart? Good to see you.
I'm doing good. Yep. All right, Zubair. So maybe you can introduce yourself with a few words and then take us to your project.
Yeah, absolutely. So my name is Zubair. Like Bart mentioned, I have a YouTube channel and then also a school community, again, all centered around automation, specifically with n8n. So yeah, all of the good stuff. I'm going to show you guys a few things today regarding kind of building front end with Lovable. And it's kind of a good example because Lovable is very user-friendly, and this method could be essentially applied to any no-code like front-end builder as well. So,
super. I see you're not sharing your screen yet.
Oh, let me share my screen quickly.
It probably has to do with the fact that Yep, there we go. Okay, so I'm going to hand over to you, and we'll keep an eye on the chat. So if anyone has any questions, we'll bring them in after you're done. Okay.
All right. Perfect.
Great.
All right, so I'm going to do a quick demo for you guys, and then I'll go through kind of like walk through how to build this thing and just kind of give you an idea of one of my favorite nodes in n8n, which is the webhook node, which is super powerful, that lets you kind of connect to any external software, especially when it comes to front end. So right now what you're seeing here, this is on the right hand side. This is the Coach AI app that I built. Again, this is all built using Lovable. So this is just like the preview version. So this is actually pretty similar to an existing platform called Coach Hello. So I just kind of utilized and use some of their user interface, except of course with changing a few things here and there. But you can see it's like a full landing page where you can essentially chat with an AI agent to get coaching about your career coach or just in general. So as you can see in the right hand side here, I can just click on get coaching now, and it pulls out this really nice user interface, kind of similar to ChatGPT, but a bit different, of course. And it just kind of gives you a few recommendations of how to interact with the system here. And then on the left-hand side, I have my AI agent that has the it's a very simple AI agent. Obviously, the point is to kind of do a quick demonstration, but you can imagine you can build as complex as you want. You can add like vector databases, so that way you have trained data, so you can essentially create a RAG that you can interact with from the front end here. So I'm going to go ahead and use the test workflow here. So I'm just going to select one of these pre-made ones. It says, let's see, I want to transition into AI engineering, but don't know where to start. So I'm just going to click on this. I'm going to click on submit. And then this is going to send that information, as you can see on the left-hand side, to our AI agent using the webhook. So the webhook processes that information, or the AI agent processes that information that's coming in from our webhook, responds back just nice and clean in the front end right here. So, and then you can also, I also have added the SERP API here, so that way I can give this access to real-time data or for real events. So you can essentially have interaction with this thing saying, let's see, what are the top careers in 2025? Or press test workflow here again, press enter. So now this is going to utilize our SERP API tool to reach out to Google and grab that information and respond back. And obviously we can walk through the different prompting, so that way you can see how you can handle the amount of sentences it can respond to. But you can see essentially how this has the ability to have very natural conversation. And then of course we've added a memory here, so that way it remembers the conversation, so you can go back and forth with it. So yeah, so that's kind of our nice little app here that we built. So now I'm gonna show you guys actually how to build something like this. Obviously, we don't want to go through the whole process goals because we only have a few minutes, but at least I can give you some idea of how to do this.
Take your time, Zubair. We can go over time a bit. So
oh, nice. Okay, cool. Yeah, I got time, so I can go over.
Thanks.
All right. So the first thing we need to do is start in n8n. We need to create our webhook, because obviously that's where all of the interaction comes in. So let me get rid of this for now, and we can come back to it. So I'm just going to go to Lovable. So this is the front end for Lovable. When you sign up for an account, this is where you land. They do give you a free tier, which basically gives you 5 messages a day. So every time you interact with the Lovable system, that's considered 1 message. So the free tier, it's pretty good, but obviously if you want to kind of play around more, feel free to look at their pricing. I don't think it's that expensive. It's like $20 per 100 message or something like that. But anyway, so that's the front end for Lovable. So let's switch over to n8n here.
While you are switching, Zubair, I'm going to have to interrupt you because we reached 1,000 viewers live right now.
Nice.
Champagne for me. So I'm going to have a nice glass of champagne and
go for it.
Enjoy this extra much, man.
Yeah, I'll be there in spirit with you. Cheer. All right, so let's go ahead and add our first step. So I'm just going to click on our first step here, and we're going to use our on webhook call here. So this is the webhook node. So let me quickly actually give you guys a little introduction on what webhook node is. By the way, I'm not plugging in my school. I just have all of my notes and everything there. So that's why I'm going to go back and forth. So excuse me. All right, let's see. I'm going to go here. So webhook, for those of you who are not familiar, in kind of the development world, it just basically allows like any apps or services to communicate in real time by automatically sending data whenever some kind of an event occurs, right? So in our case, every time there is a message that gets sent from here, from the front end, then this webhook will be waiting, and then it will initiate that process. So that's essentially what a webhook is. That's a very quick introduction. So in order to kind of build the front end, what you will do is I'll always suggest creating kind of like a prompt, a general prompt, at least to get started on like a ChatGPT or Claude or something like that. So I have this kind of templated prompt here that I've put for Lovable, where you can just have all of these different sections that identifies or tells Lovable how to create your initial design for whatever you're building, right? So if you're building some kind of an app, whether it's like for AI coaching or whatever it may be, you want to start with a initial set of instruction for Lovable that at least it gets you a blank, canvas, instead of kind of just starting with, hey, build me this, right? Because that's going to require a lot of back and forth. So that's why I always suggest creating like a template prompt in ChatGPT or Claude, and then using that. So I'm just going to copy this because I've already put it in here. All right, so let me show you guys what's inside this prompt. I'm going to zoom in a little bit because I know the screen is a little bit small. All right, hopefully you guys can see that. Yeah, so essentially I'm telling, hey, create a modern, elegant career coaching web app with a clean and warm UI, and I'm providing the key features here. So I'm saying, you know, it needs to have a full screen landing page with the soft gradient background, and it's, you know, in order as far as how it works. So I'm just identifying that the user will enter a career goal, and you need to have that interaction with it. And most importantly, this section right here, this is very important. So this is where the webhook communication with n8n comes in. So I'm telling it, hey, every time a user interacts in the front end, in the landing page, then you need to have that information sent to the backend to n8n via this webhook. And that's why I've put insert webhook URL here. So that's exactly what we'll do. We'll create our webhook, as you can see on the left-hand side here, on our n8n, and then we're gonna take that webhook URL and put it inside our Lovable. So let me go ahead and, oops. All right, so let me copy this.
How long did it take you to develop this prompt, Zubair? Was it a lot of back and forth? Or?
Oh, it was a lot of back and forth till I figured it out. Yeah, so
I bet.
Yeah, because I mean that's the thing. Like, depending on like what you're trying to build, and then I also kind of created, because I'm lazy, I don't want to do the work twice. So I just kind of created this kind of universal prompt as well afterwards, once I figured out exactly what I wanted. So now I can just basically do fill in the blank. So I can just copy this and paste it in like a ChatGPT or Claude and tell it, hey, this is what I want to build, switch all of these placeholders. So
smart.
So I'm going to go ahead and paste this. So now that all of that prompt comes in here. So before pressing enter, what I'm going to do is, because we need to obviously change this webhook URL here. So I'm going to delete this. And here's where we need to add our webhook URL. So let me switch to our n8n here. So yeah, earlier we added our webhook trigger. So this is our trigger essentially.
One you can zoom in your browser a little so the font is slightly larger.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Perfect. Thanks.
All right. So in our webhook, there's a few things that are very, very important. Of course, first of all, you need to make sure that you're copying the correct URL. If you're using this in test URL, make sure you're providing the proper test URL versus the production, because what's going to end up happening is that obviously if you're in production, then you're not going to see anything happening in real life. You would have to go to the execution tab. So that's why I always suggest starting with the test URL, and you can change the path so that way it's nice and clean. So I'm just going to put my name, whatever. So as you can see, this is our test URL now. Very important thing, make sure you're changing your method to post, because what you want to do is you want to send all of the data, the payload from the front end to your backend and then via the post request, meaning that all of that information needs to come in the body of your webhook, not in the URL itself, essentially, because that's going to create a lot of problems, especially if you're building a more complex front end, right? Because you want to be able to send as much data as possible. And Bart, feel free to stop me if I'm moving too fast or
no, I'm having a good time. Yep.
So yeah, the method, make sure it's post, because by the way, on our prompt here, I did mention that make sure all of the information from the front end is being sent with the post method, right? I know it's kind of small, but you can see right here. The webhook request should be sent using the post method with data formatted as JSON in the request body instead of the URL parameter. And the reason why I kind of noticed is because initially when I was testing this out, Lovable was sending the data on the URL itself, and that's not a good practice. So that's why I make sure that I
you can also share more data using a post.
Exactly.
Request, right? So.
Authentication, we'll keep it as none for now. Response, so this is very important. When you're testing this, I suggest keeping it as immediately, because you want to first of all make sure that your initial connection is being sent over, and then afterwards we can change this to another. So let me go ahead and copy this and go back here. Paste it here, and we're going to press enter here and then let this thing build itself out. So once you press enter, now Lovable is going to start working on this thing and build out kind of the backend or the code itself. It will give you a preview after everything is built. But it does take a couple of minutes here. So that's, that'll go through. So waiting for that. There you go. So the sandbox has started now. So now this is going to build everything out. And then once this thing gets built out, then we can essentially test this to our webhook here. Did that work?
And while it's doing this, Zubair, for people who are not familiar with Lovable yet, if they want to test this, do they have a free tier that they can try out, or do you need?
Yeah. So if they go to lovable.dev, as far as the pricing in the bottom, so let me see here. So this is their pricing. So they do have a free tier. So every time you interact with Lovable, so when you saw I entered that huge kind of prompt, that's called one message, right? So one message means that every time you interact with the Lovable system, they will reduce that one message. You get 5 messages per day. But obviously, if you use like a starter month, you could do, or if you want to interact with it a bit more, you just do the $20 a month.
Gotcha.
Yep. So let's see. Paste that. All right, there you go. Earlier, I don't know what was going on. I think it wasn't working. So there you go. Now it says spinning up preview. So now this is going to go ahead and build everything out based on the prompt you provided. You know, sometimes I see, whether it's like LinkedIn or in social media, people saying, I built this app with one prompt. That's a horrible idea, you know, because that's just not reality. You know, like you want to go back and forth, whether it's like, you know, Cursor, Replit, or Lovable, whatever it may be. You know, it's almost impossible to build an app or any kind of something useful just by one prompt, right? Because you always need to go back and forth with it. But the great thing is, like I said, once it does give you this full or this build for this, the basic structure, then you can go back and forth because it's not going to obviously do everything right at the first time. But anyway, so on the left-hand side, so our webhook setting is pretty much done. We're going to keep this as it is. Oh, I'm really zoomed in here. So then while this thing is getting built out, again, because I put a huge prompt there, so this is going to take a little bit of time while this thing gets built out. But while we're letting that thing do its thing, let's go ahead and add our AI agent here. So I'm going to press the plus button here, and I'm going to grab our AI agent. So our AI agent, obviously, it's going to be a tools agent. That's the holy grail of the AI agent. But obviously, you have multiple different AI agents. These are obviously all instances of LangChain, but the most useful one is a tools agent. So that way you can add additional tools that you can interact with, whether it's APIs or other integrated nodes as well. So for the source, obviously, by default, every time you add an AI agent, the source for the prompt always gets to connected to chat trigger. In our case, we need to change that, and we need to define exactly where the source of the prompt is coming. In our case, the source of the prompt will be when the user sends that request or the interaction from the front end via the webhook, right? So that's going to come through that post request in the body of that JSON. So that's what we need to identify here. But for now, let's go ahead and leave it as it is. The chat model, you can choose whatever you want. I'm just going to use my good old ChatGPT here, or OpenAI. We can add a memory as well. And a good practice is to always, when you're building something in the front end, to always create a session ID. So that way you can send that information and a session ID for each session. So that way you can interact with it very easily. And then that's where you can add that to our memory here. All right, so that's our career coach there. So as you can see, just by one prompt, it built this nice little user interface. And now you can go back and forth with it and say, hey, I don't like the user interface or the landing page or the color or whatever. The great thing is, because I'm lazy, I always, use screenshots. So you can literally just say, hey, I don't like the screenshot, change it to this, right? So.
And every time you do one of these interactions, that's taking 1 credit out of your account.
Exactly. Yep.
Okay.
That's 1 credit. So I'm just going to add this screenshot. So that first prompt, that's why, like I said, you always want to start with a good first prompt. So that way, at least it builds the whole, a nice landing page.
You converge quickly to what you need.
Otherwise, you would go through like 15 messages before you have built like this, right? So,
does Lovable host the app for you?
Yeah. So you have, you can actually publish this. You can actually add your own custom domain. But that part is obviously outside. That's going to take too long, but it definitely has that option there. Yeah.
Okay. Perfect.
Yeah, so you can literally put the screenshot. I'm not going to do that because, again, I don't want to take this too long. But you can just say add the screenshot, change the front end or something like that. Yep. But as you can see right now, at least it's good to go. So I'm going to click on get started. There you go. So it has at least this nice little front end for chat. So let me go ahead and now test this out and see if this works. So I'm going to, let me shut this off because I'll store an error. So now keep this as respond to immediately on the first time because you want to make sure that the communication is happening. Oops. I'm just going to say hello. There you go. Perfect, right? It worked the first time. Believe me, if it wasn't for that prompt, it would not have worked the first time. So if you're doing this kind of starting from fresh, then you would have to go back and forth a couple of times before like this sends the information to your webhook. Try to fix that. Something happened. It's going to fix it itself. All right. So let's go ahead and see inside our webhook to see what happened. Let me zoom in a little bit. There you go. All right. So this is the information that came through from our front end here. So obviously when you're, let me switch to JSON. Yeah, so when you're sending information from the front end by a webhook, it's going to send a bunch of headers. So as you can see, this is all of these information is coming in through in the headers. But if you scroll down to the bottom right here, the body, so it says message hello, that's exactly what we sent, right? So this is where majority of your data will be coming in from the front end. And that's what Bart was mentioning earlier, that in post request in the body, and what I was mentioning earlier too, that you can send a lot more data. So that's why it's a really good practice to always send information via the body. So now that we have our communication set up, now we can go ahead and add the rest of the stuff. So I'm going to go ahead and pin this thing so that way I don't have to, right? There you go. So now we can, for the prompt, from the prompt. So now this is going to be our, the prompt is going to be coming in from the body of the message right here. So I'm going to grab the message here and just literally drag it over here. And perfect. As you can see, it's nice and green. That's like super satisfying to see that green.
It is, right? Yeah.
But anyway, so that's basically our prompt source instead of the chat trigger. So now it looks like everything is good to go. Our AI agent is connected to our front end via the webhook to that prompt here. So now let's go ahead. This is where we can add now tools. So now you can obviously make this as complicated as you want or as simple as possible. But I just earlier added SERP API. So let's go ahead and just do that. SERP API, there you go. And then for memory, because if you want to have like a natural conversation back and forth, that's why you need to have some kind of a memory. If you're building a more complex build here, I would suggest going with the Postgres chat memory, especially if you're adding a database. But for now, of course, the Windows buffer memory is great. So same thing for session key now. Like this is gonna be expecting this from a chat trigger, but since we don't have that, I'm gonna grab the define below. So like I said, a good practice would be to actually send a session ID. So go again back to your front end and say, hey, create a session ID for each chat session. So that way it has that, remember. But I can just grab like some data from here. I'm just gonna grab this real IP, so at least it has something there. All right, so there you go. We're good to go now. Very important thing here. Now, instead of respond immediately, because if we want this information to go back to our front end here, right, we want to make sure that that's being sent via webhook as well. So therefore, we need to add another node in here called respond to webhook. So I'm just going to search for respond to webhook. So this is where now we'll be sending the information that's going to be from the output of our AI agent back to the front end via this respond to webhook. So I'm just going to choose all incoming items, and you're all good to go. So now another very important thing. So when you add the respond to webhook, let me pin this. You're going to come here to respond, because right now it says immediately. You're going to change this to using respond to webhook node, because now, and in the bottom it says insert a respond to webhook node to control how you respond. So now we have kind of this, the loop has been closed, right? Like the information comes in from the front end to our webhook trigger. AI agent process whatever it needs to process. The output of the AI agent will be sent to the webhook or to the front end using the respond to webhook. I'm just going to actually change the system prompt here, because obviously by default, the system prompt, it just says you're a helpful AI assistant. I'm just going to say, use the SERP research or whatever. I'm just going to say respond in 3 sentences. All right, because otherwise this is going to respond in like 1,000 words. So that's why I always try to control that. All right, so let's go ahead and test this thing out now. So now it looks like everything is good to go. I'm going to click on test workflow. So now, whoops. Let me start again. All right, so now let's go ahead and click on test workflow. All right, let's go ahead and say I want to switch. Oops.
Did it already fire?
Yeah, because I was, there was some data in there already. Let's see, I want to make sure that's good. Listening, yep. That's workflow. All right, what is going on in here? There's some kind of a weird. This is where the beauty of live coding comes in, live stream.
It looks like your Lovable app is firing webhooks.
Yeah, exactly.
Before you hit enter, right?
Yeah. So that's what's happening.
I think this is a perfect illustration of where vibe coding can become a challenge as well. Like, how do you debug this thing now, right?
So I mean, the good thing is, like I said, you just kind of go back and forth to it. So let me go ahead and do this one more time and see if this is happening. Let's see. So as soon as I click on this thing, hello. Yep, there you go. So it's sending that information as soon as I type a message, right? So this is where, I mean, this is good that it's happening. So you can say, hey, looks like as soon as I type a message, it's sending.
Oh, there's another suggestion on the chat here. Someone says people are playing with your webhook. So if you publish your webhook and they can see it in the stream.
Oh, that's what's happening. I'm like, what? Okay. Yeah. So I mean, you can change that. I just put the path to Zubair, so maybe I should have just left it as that gibberish. But anyways, even in a way, it's kind of a good thing. So even if this thing happens, what you could do is just say, hey, looks like something is happening before I send the message. So that's where you can now go back and forth and just change this, right? And another thing is, as you can
try
see,
once more, Zubair. Clement says he was just trolling you. So let's see if it works now.
Oh, okay. Come on, Clement. This is not the time for trolling, man. All right. That is okay. I'm gonna say I want to switch.
Is your webhook listening now?
Let me go ahead and that's workflow. Oh, somebody's still playing around.
Okay. Yep.
All right. Let me shut you guys off. Hold on one second.
This is why we can't have nice things, huh? Yeah.
I know, right?
That's the thing with live streams. This happens in your own YouTube recordings. It doesn't, right? So.
Good luck copying that, Pat. Now. Okay, so I'm just going to say, please change the webhook URL path to this, right?
It's a good lesson in security too. We see a lot of people sharing workflows on our forum, asking questions, and there's API keys in them and stuff. And so we spend quite a bit of time cleaning it up.
Yeah, please do not share API keys. Yeah, that's one thing I would suggest. And if you're doing API, like make sure you're saving that in a Supabase or something like that, so that way you have that information stored securely.
Yeah, or create a credential. Like even for HTTP requests, you can create your header credentials, etc. It's really
exactly
easy.
Yep. So let's go ahead and do this again. I don't think anybody's minutes. Yeah. So let me try this. I'm just gonna say. All right, there you go. Nice. So now this looks like it's sending this information, but you can see on our response here, it says, hello, how can I assist you? But that's not coming through. So now we can, again, go back to our Lovable and say, it looks like information is going to n8n via webhook, but the response is not coming back. Okay, so now again, just go back and forth, and this will fix that thing and change kind of the backend code to respond to that. All right, so while this is happening, I mean, that's kind of the end of it, but you can see that everything is kind of working at this point. One important thing that I want to point out, I know kind of I touched upon that. The great thing about Lovable is that it already has integration with Supabase. Now, you know, Supabase goes really well with n8n as well. So now, as you can imagine, you can build like a full stack, including authentication. So you can provide all that authentication. You can add like your login and sign up, all of that stuff, ship that off to your Supabase. And then in the back end, you know, you can create essentially a more complex workflow here. So let me do this one more time, and then we should be good to go. Make sure this worked. There you go, perfect, right? So it looks like it worked. It fixed the error, right? Because earlier it wasn't responding. So if we go inside our response here, hello again, what would you like to talk about or ask? So, and that's the exact information and sent back to the front end. So now that loop has been fully closed, all right? Perfect. So now let me go ahead and actually bring over a kind of a bit more complex. So let me, so I can just quickly touch upon the full stack side. Let me download the blueprint here.
I'm actually kind of glad that this happened, because it was a question I was going to ask you, like, how are you going to update your webhook URL if you need to change it afterwards? And you were forced to do it live, which is great.
Exactly, yeah. So somebody was trying to screw around with me, man. All right, so this is kind of a more complex build. So, you know, this is kind of like the front end was same thing done with with Lovable, and the front end was where you can upload files like resumes and stuff like that, and you can send that information and interact with it via the backend at n8n. So what we did was basically add the Supabase connection. Those files that would get added, they will go to Supabase, and here's the different workflows that we built, right? Adding files to Supabase vector database. So every time somebody would upload like a bunch of resumes, that would get automatically uploaded to the vector database. You also had the ability to delete the files from the front end, because you identify kind of the metadata, and that's how you can figure out exactly where that file is living inside your vector database. If you guys have ever played around with vector databases, one of the most painful things is that whenever there's an update that occurs in a file that's already sitting in a vector database, you don't want to re-vectorize that, right? Because then that's not going to give you good data. What you want to do is you want to delete those vectors from your vector database and then reinsert it. So this part right here, the second, it says delete files from vector database. That's exactly what it's doing, because you don't want duplicate vectors, right? In a vector database, when it comes to vector search, if you have duplicate vectors, that's not it's not going to give you good results. So the third is basically chatting with the files from the Supabase vector database. Same thing. Everything is happening via the webhook. This is sending that information to the AI agent. This AI agent has access to the Supabase vector database, so that way all your files are sitting there. So this is a bit more complex build. I mean, obviously this takes a long time to build, but this is what's possible essentially. You can build like a full stack front end, a full stack app using your Lovable as the front end, Supabase that will handle all of the authentication. It will handle all of your it will handle all of your user logins. It will handle all of your files, and then n8n can sit in the back end using AI and just process everything nice and pretty.
Right. It's great you touched on this, because Clement just asked if, from your experience, Lovable is capable of taking care of single sign-on or login workflows. So with a solution like this, sounds like it is, right?
Absolutely. Oh yeah, like I said. So on the right-hand side, so let me go here. So if you see on the top right corner, let me zoom in a little bit. So there it has Supabase, GitHub, right? So when you click on Supabase here, this will tell you exactly, these are all the projects that are sitting within my Supabase account. So if I go to my Supabase account, my dashboard, these are my projects that are here. So you can essentially click on any of these projects and then come back to your Lovable and connect them right here.
Gotcha. Nice.
Yep, very simple. And the great thing is, for those of you who are familiar with Supabase, Supabase runs on SQL, so it has an entire SQL editor, right? So the reason why you can interact with this so seamlessly from the front end using Lovable is because you can essentially just go back and forth and right here and just say, hey, connect this or create this table in my Supabase account. Because it's all SQL, it will go inside your Supabase and update that and then have that interaction back and forth. Another important thing is, if you want to make sure you're building a complex workflow like this one, for instance, where everything is being communicated via the webhook back and forth, you want to go to your Supabase integrations, and you need to add this. You need to add a webhook, right? Because obviously Supabase has all these different integrations or these different apps that you can attach. Sorry, I think it's and then for authentication, as you can see, so you can add the authentication right here, where when you do a login, build a login or a sign up page in your front end, then all of that authentication will come in and sit on your table right here. All right, yeah, sorry, I went way over time, but if you guys have any questions, feel free to ask. Oh, you're on mute, Bart.
Am I still on mute?
No, you're good now.
Okay.
You're good now.
Okay, cool. I said, well, no worries about going over time. People are having a great time, and the number of viewers is only increasing. So you're doing something right. So, Luis, do you have any questions for Zubair? Let's take 4 or 5 and then wrap up and move to the after party. All right, so Victor asks, in his example, n8n is being used as an API. Can we also have something like Swagger in n8n to organize the workflows that are being used as APIs? So do you have experience with Swagger, Zubair?
To be honest, I haven't played around with Swagger, so I'm not going to give you an answer that I don't know anything about. So,
all right, that's fair. Yeah, let's move to another question then. How do you create a session ID? That's up to Lovable, I suppose, right?
Yep. You just basically tell Lovable, hey, create a session ID. Very simple. That's vibe coding at its best.
I have a question for you too. So now you have your app, and we saw one instance where you had to update it to use another webhook URL. But what if you want to go into the code yourself and make some changes? Did you try that? Did you see like how maintainable or how easy to read this code actually is?
So on the Lovable side, I'm assuming you mean?
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, obviously the code is very readable for sure. I mean, it uses mostly based on what I've seen. I haven't made any changes myself to the code itself, but it looks like it's using React-based and JavaScript. So if you're familiar with like React-based code and JavaScript, all the formatting and everything is from that. Yep.
Okay. Fantastic.
I think
Luis, sorry, you highlighted another question and then I talked through it. Does Lovable handle PostgreSDB as well as Supabase, or one over the other? Like, does it prefer a certain type of database, or?
So the reason why I use Postgres is because it just works well together, because obviously these are all SQL based. So especially for like the chat history, right? Like on your AI agents, you want to add the Postgres chat history, because then on your Supabase right here, so if I go to my table editor, you can add. Oh, this one doesn't have any tables, but you can add all of your tables here. So let me go back and actually show you. Where's my Supabase tables? I think it's this one. All right, here we go. So as you can see, these chat histories, this is basically all of the information that's coming in from our Postgres memory, chat memory right here. So you can build that table yourself inside Supabase, attach it to your Postgres chat memory inside n8n, and then on the front end, you tell Lovable, hey, use that particular table to store all of your chat history. So that's how you can kind of go back and forth. And the reason why we can do that is because one very important thing is that in your in your Lovable, in your Supabase, you want to make sure you're adding the same webhook from your n8n right here, so that way it knows to communicate that back and forth. So as you can see right here on my database webhooks, and again, this is an integration. I have, there you go. I have this webhook thing on a post request attached, so that way it knows exactly how to communicate back and forth between your n8n.
Yeah, lots of people asked how they can get the prompt that you're using. I suppose that's part of being a member of your school community, right?
Exactly. Yeah, it would. I honestly, I would love to share, but it wouldn't be fair to the guys who kind of pay people who paid to be there. So otherwise, I would have. But you know, it's nothing. Honestly, it's nothing magical. It's just you just have to go back and forth between, you know, with your ChatGPT or Claude, and just, you know, figure out exactly what you want to build. And after, you know, I mean, it took me a couple of hours to come up with like a nice formatted prompt. But you know, you might be way smarter than me. It might take you like 10 minutes to come up. So
I think you gave us a lot of pointers to how to like structure a project like this.
Yeah, but the main goal is, I mean, the whole point of that prompt was to kind of give Lovable a foundation of what you're trying to build. And most importantly, you want to identify and tell Lovable, hey, all of the communication needs to occur via the post request, because we need to send all information via body. And then also you need to identify that, send all of the information via the webhook, and that will be like a good starting point. And then the rest you can figure it out.
It's like generic prompt you need for all of your projects, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. Luis, maybe we can do 2 more questions. Damien asks, can you show how Supabase finds metadata that's already there and updates it or delete and replace it? So this has to do with like inserting your data in the vector store, right?
Yep, absolutely. So let me zoom in here. Yeah, so what's happening here is right now you can see I have this delete row here. So if I go inside, I mean, obviously this is not going to show everything, but on the bottom.
Can you zoom in the text a little bit? Yep, thanks.
All right. Okay, so in the bottom, as you guys can see here, I have, well, of course, your credential needs to be attached to your Supabase account. The operation is going to be deleting the row. So now I'm selecting the type, the string, and I'm identifying the metadata here. It says metadata file path, and this is where you're getting that file path, right? So I'm just grabbing it from the JSON, the body, the record, the storage path. Where is this coming from? This is coming from your webhook right here. Right. So when it sends that information from the front end, it's going to use that path. Whoops. It's going to use
that
this
could be
path.
any identifier, right? In this case,
that could be any identifier. Yeah. I mean, we have just named it storage path, but you can name it whatever you want. Yep.
All right.
But great question for sure.
Yep. Thanks. Okay, one more question, Luis, and then we'll wrap up. This is the longest live stream we've done ever. He says no more questions. Well, so then we're good.
All right.
Zubair, man, it was a pleasure having you and like showing your magic on the stream today. Thanks so much. I'll be sure to send you a nice bottle of champagne, because I know it's not fair me just sipping here in your heart. So that's coming. That's coming your way.
Actually, Bart, I don't drink, so don't.
Let's talk about what I can send to you. That will make you happy, right? Yeah.
All good, all good. But I appreciate the gesture.
Brilliant. Okay. Well, thanks so much. I am going to head back to my slides then. Oh, and Zubair, I forgot. I wanted to ask you, like, can you mention one more time where people can find your YouTube channel and your school community as well?
Yeah, absolutely. So my YouTube channel is just AI Workshop. If you just search AI Workshop, and then also the community, same thing named. It's school.com, skool.com/AI Workshop.
Right. All right. Well, that's it for today. The only thing I have left to say is that we will have an after party, which is just a Google Meet where everyone can join if you want to hang out with us, if you want to chat and show us your own projects, if you want to see me sip some more champagne, maybe. Let me bring in the QR code again. Okay, so head over to this URL, and I'll be there in a couple of minutes. Zubair, are you joining us, or are you busy?
I got a call, unfortunately. Otherwise, I would have loved to join.
No worries. Another time then, man. Thanks so much. Cheers.
Thanks all.
Bye-bye.
Take care.
Okay, folks, I'll leave this up for a few more minutes, and then I'll head over to the after party URL.